Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, another year, another all-star format. Congrats to Kevin Durant, his team. Not exactly sure what I'm supposed to call it. Emerged victorious. Let's talk about all things All-Star 2025, look ahead, and circle back to Ryan Dunn next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on President's Day Monday. Don't forget, Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's all at FanDuel.com. More from them later on in the show. But first, joining me as always from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling after the All-Star game? Ben Garcia.
I was expecting more, and that's on me. That's my fault. I shouldn't expect that every year, but I was kind of down with this new format. I like the idea of 4 teams. I kind of like everyone kind of had a strategic pick to it. One guy took the young guys. One guy took the world guys. We had the rising stars, and we had the OGs, right? So I was kind of pessimistically optimistic, if that makes sense. But I just thought
cautious.
I just thought it would be a little bit more. That last game sucked. That last game sucked so hard. And Wembanyama's actually trying, and he looks like a fool for trying because it's so easy for him to get to the basket that I feel bad for him because he's trying to get more out of it. So I just wish we got more out of it is all. But that's all right. What about you? How did you feel about it? Did you like the format?
Yeah, I think we'll circle back to some bigger picture questions about this event and just kind of the nature of the league at this inflection point kind of moment, and then we'll check in on Ryan Dunn's season since he did kick off the weekend in that Rising Stars Challenge. But yeah, look, I wasn't optimistic. I think that it really disappoints me and bums me out that the All-Star game has become this, and I do think that the players deserve all of the blame for that. I think that it is frustrating that, the kind of obligation or just the, honor, I guess, of kind of furthering the league and growing the game and just putting a respectable product out there that people care about just for the sake of doing that, that is not something that a lot of these guys take seriously. We wanted to mention, I think too, that, LeBron and somehow LeBron and Anthony Davis were late scratches for the All-Star game. And I know Suns fans are probably, what did I say? Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis. I mean, he wasn't a late scratch, but he was a scratch.
And I think Suns fans are probably bummed about that part because Devin Booker likely would have been, considering those two guys were both in the West, I think, he would have been a strong candidate if that was made known sooner. So just a lot of it adds up to, even all the way up to the moment it's happening, these guys are just screaming at us from San Francisco, hey, this doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that's how could you not be annoyed by that as a person who all of our listeners, we like this sport, we like this league, we care about it, and they're just telling us, not so much.
As a kid, I would block off. So it was kind of cool, for me as a kid. My birthday is today, whatever, tomorrow. So every year when I was a kid, the All-Star game landed on my birthday, or the All-Star game landed on All-Star weekend. And I loved it because we would go out. It was a big thing for me. I love the All-Star game. We would go out, get dinner or whatever with my family, and the game be on. And it would be kind of multiple things going on at the same time. And it was just kind of fun. And so for me, I still kind of block off the All-Star game or the skills competition or the dunk contest, because like, even though it hasn't been good for forever, I still, for some reason, love it. And the Chris Paul moment, like not even in the All-Star game, but like him and Wembanyama, like not taking the skills competition seriously. Like even, I don't care if there are so many loose ends.
Well, they
in the
either
rule book,
didn't
like,
take it seriously or they took it more seriously. You could make that
yeah,
argument.
but it's called a skills competition. And I get the point you're trying to make, that like maybe they were really trying to win and they had the best intentions, but like at the end of the day, you don't get voted into the Hall of Fame for winning a skills competition. It just is kind of a slap in the face to fans. And like the fact that they were kind of laughing about it, I get it. It's kind of so Chris Paul that it is a little funny, but it was just kind of the whole weekend. Like Mac McClung winning the slam dunk competition. He's amazing. Every dunk he did, seriously, I was like, oh my God. Like I actually didn't think it was a terrible dunk contest, but I'm like, man, I wish Ja was there, or Anthony Edwards. And like, we kind of saw but we get this every year. They always tell us, oh, I got to do this next year, and it never happens. And I'm talking about the Aaron Gordon, things like that. Like, to wrap up my point, because I'm filibustering here, is it just gets frustrating because you see the NHL. They had the Four Nations, and I am not a hockey fan. I wasn't really upset when the Coyotes left. I just never really got into it. Watching that and seeing those guys care so much about a game just because their country is on their chest. It's an exhibition game. Connor McDavid saying the next game they play is a Game 7 so that they can get in the final and play USA again. Like, that is very appealing to me, where then you have the NBA side where guys are they just think like you're never going anywhere else. And I think doing that and wasting people's time is a real turnoff. So I talked a lot there, but it is a topic that's kind of sensitive for me because I really like it. I really like the All-Star weekend. And it's just become awful, man. It's just unwatchable. And it's funny because next year I'll watch it anyways, but it just every year it just gets so annoying.
Yeah, I probably will too. The format, what I liked too, I agree with you. I liked when the inside guys, basically, I don't know if the league hinted at that or if they talked about, I don't know where the idea came from to break it up the way that they did, to have it be, kind of a themed team within each of these. That helped the format, in my opinion, but it's just less basketball. There's more breaks. I thought of it, at first, like up until recently when it was about to happen, I honestly thought it was going to be like, I was wondering, I was like, when I first heard about it, is it 3-on-3? Is it?
That's what I thought it was.
Is it, I like half court or something? Like, I was like, what? Because they kept saying pickup style. I'm like, well, then you're watching and you're like, it's not. It's just a shorter game. It's like a shorter game with the Elam ending with the target score thing. And so once I was sitting there watching it, finally, I was like, this is just the same All-Star game we didn't really like, but with a few teams instead of just two, and that's about it. It's just less basketball. It's less of the thing we don't like. So I guess they kind of are listening, but yeah, it didn't bring, like, even that element, which I think people have wanted for a long time, of the world versus the U.S. Like, we got that at the end because of this format, and then I don't think that mattered. So the one thing I'm holding out hope for is that there's a new network taking this thing over next year, and they probably don't want to just be made fun of and laughed at for 11 years on this new media deal, as NBC is going to be the host for this thing instead of TNT. Maybe that helps. But again, if I'm going to blame the players, then I'm going to have to count on them to get us out of this and not NBC. So that part, I have to admit, I don't feel super optimistic about, because why would I?
I'm not super optimistic about it either. I'm going to watch any format they do, but really quickly, did you know the rules exactly? Like, when you sat down, you knew exactly what you were going to watch? Or were you like me?
Because I hate to be this way, but I didn't care.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
I mean? Like, I was like, I'm going to turn it on, but like, I don't really care. I just see what's going on,
I'll be honest with you. I was kind of excited for it because every year I get excited for the All-Star game. I really like the MLB All-Star game too. NFL's terrible, so I don't watch that. But even last night when I was like, oh, I got to watch the All-Star game tomorrow. Like I got a little excited for it because new format. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't really know what they're doing. And so I really did assume it was 3-on-3 and it was half court. And I was like, wait a second. Well, that doesn't make any sense because then you have one side of the crowd watching like from a distance and the other side. And I was like, okay, are they going to play both at the same time? And I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And so I just thought it was 3-on-3 half court style. And so when I saw them playing 5-on-5, I was really confused. I was like, oh, so it's just more teams. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I'll continue to hold out hope that it gets better because I really do like it. And I thought it was, LeBron, and, we'll get to some of this stuff too. I think he holds like a real, like, I don't know, invisible privilege. Like silently, he's the leader of everyone and he should be. He's the face of the NBA. Man, it's the second straight year where he had an injury. Last year, he just did the starting lineup and then got out immediately. And then this year, he doesn't even show up. And like, I am kind of pissed off because although I don't think Devin Booker deserved the All-Star game to with all those guys in there, but when you take those guys out, they still get their All-Star selection. It's not like they lose it. Like Ant and Braun can still sit on the bench, but get out. Like put Devin Booker in, put whoever else in. Like let me as a fan be able to watch that. You get me more. If I had two games, Booker was on one, Katie was on the other. I don't know, man. That was lame.
I mean, not
too.
to mention
so
too,
lame.
when you talk about LeBron and him getting in, like he probably would get in on merit. The Lakers have a better record. His numbers are as solid as always, even if they've dipped since his peak, obviously. But he gets in as a starter, and it's like, what does that even mean anymore? Because there's
Nothing.
4 freaking teams, so it's like I don't even know what we're doing with that. I guess the silver lining is Ben that. Amazon is going to be involved in the NBA rights package going forward too. And so maybe where this is all just headed is that it is going to be a big Mr. Beast experiment because he did take over midway through and he has the Amazon show. So, Mr. Beast is here to save the day. That Mr. Beast and Kevin Hart, ladies and gentlemen, that is.
Oh my God, man. Get Kevin Hart off the court. I understood the tribute that they were doing, but God, it was too long. I was sitting there editing
the tribute, but it was just like every 10 minutes.
Oh my God,
he was out there. Yeah, so okay.
I was so, and also, isn't Kevin Hart like so 2016? Like, I don't mean to be rude, but like
he does a lot of sports stuff. Sports is like the one thing I feel like he is still involved with, honestly, because he does.
All right. Well then, what do I know?
He does like some stuff for ESPN and whatever.
Right.
Okay, let's get to a bigger picture thing. Kevin Durant, you mentioned LeBron did this last year. KD also only played 6 minutes at the end in the final game. And, this era is ending. The Olympics, this whatever. It's not this year, but it is a swan song, prolonged swan song. And for however long the Suns have Kevin Durant, they're kind of part of this. So we want to look at, like, what does come next? Is it somebody like a Devin Booker? Do we know what it's going to look like? Is it going to be a little rocky? We'll get into that next. First, today's show is brought to you by Hungry Root. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, we all have the same problem. Just not enough time between work, life, and trying to eat healthier. The constant feeling of being stressed out. You go to the grocery store. You buy things you don't need or you can't make in time. They go bad, this and that. You struggle to find the ingredients you actually know how to cook. All that stuff just ends up making you want to pull your hair out rather than getting the positive feedback and goals that you're actually looking for. But everything changes with Hungry Root. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and a nutritionist all in one. Hungry Root takes care of your grocery shopping with meal recommendations and grocery lists based on your tastes and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high protein to gluten-free. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. A huge time saver that makes healthy eating so much simpler. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as we do on the Locked On Podcast Network. And for a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life once you check it out. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA at checkout. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice in each box for life. That's HUNGRYROOT.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. Alrighty, Ben, we'll close out with Ryan Dunn later on, but let's keep it going here with this aptly named tonight, the OGs, right? These guys that have been in front and center for Hoops fans for 15, if not 20 years. And it's really, when we're talking about this group, it's LeBron, Curry, and Durant. They've been in the finals or faced each other in the finals for the majority of the seasons that we're talking about here. They each have multiple championships in that run. They've been on multiple teams, except for Curry, a piece. And they are, like you said in the last segment, the faces of the league. But when one of them doesn't play, the other one plays 6 minutes, and the other one gets, a time violation. I'm just kidding. That's not his fault, but it was funny. It signals like that we are in a new era. We're headed toward a new era. I think, judging from our conversation before we hit record, you're a little more negative on this than me, because frankly, if I'm going to put in one answer, I look at the dude who's 7-4 on the other side of that final game, and I think we're in good hands.
I don't think skill set wise, the NBA is not in great hands, but I think there's more to being the face of the NBA than just being really good at basketball. I mean, Nikola Jokic right now, he's a top 2 player in the NBA. And, I told you about this, where like the one thing about LeBron is he's gravitating. I went down during the Suns Lakers game just to get a look at LeBron and feel what it was like to be in his presence. Like, those guys are more than just basketball. They're this era of basketball. And this new one coming up, maybe it does work. And I'm sure it does to some degree. But when Michael Jordan left and retired, the NBA lost a third of its viewership. And then, they kind of get back on their feet. They find the right guys. LeBron James is the second coming of Jordan to some people. And then, of course, you get Curry that revolutionizes the game. And Kevin Durant's the first 7-footer that could show up and hit threes and handle the ball and do everything a guard can do, even better than Dirk Nowitzki did it years ago. And so, since we don't have that generational star right now that is also in the U.S. that people can get their arms around because he's ours, because for some reason that's an issue. Like, you hear kind of stuff with Jokic saying, I actually don't think he likes his job, or Victor Wembanyama is not a big personality guy. He's a 7'4" alien.
I would disagree. I think Victor Wembanyama has the full package. That's why I started with him. It wasn't just to be like, let's gawk and he's funny to talk about. I think that he really does genuinely have it. I think if you listen to interviews with him, if you watch him going to Washington Square Park and playing chess with those guys earlier in the season, if you he's competitive, like he's on the court in France crying, saying all the right things after that game, saying you never know when you're going to be back here. This was, my moment to deliver for this home fan base, and blah, blah, blah. Even the Chris Paul of it with the skills challenge. But Draymond Green said after that, and he participated in that event on Saturday night, he said that plan on the skills challenge to just chuck the balls instead of actually taking the shots and doing the windmill passes and everything was Wemby's idea. Like, I just think he is he's just in year 2 and the team's under 500. But I think that I wonder if that's when the shadow of these legends is gone, we might get to know these guys better. That would be what I would say. And not only the shadow of them from like a marketing or like a, TV standpoint, but just when their teams are out of the way, when these guys are the players going deep in the playoffs every year, Kobe wasn't the superstar famous person he was until Jordan retired and Shaq left his team, and then he's a sensation, but he wasn't early, right? It was just an entertaining guy who played for the Lakers. People liked him, but it went to another level at a certain point. Like, I think we're just maybe in the early stages. I do think the NBA kind of missed an era, right? Ja and Zion falling the way that they did and some of that, like that hurts. But I do think that there's some guys here that you can kind of envision in that role. Is anyone going to reach LeBron Jordan status? I mean, maybe not, but like, I don't think the NFL has the peak famous, exciting people all the time either, and you just kind of wait for it until it comes.
Yeah, in my opinion, no, the NFL has always been about the team, the shield, like that. It's
Sure.
not about one person. The
I'm
NBA
not
is very
sports.
star-driven.
I'm more comparing that every sport goes through spurts where maybe there's not a historically famous person at the front of it, and there's just some in-between guys. Maybe this will be an in-between era. Maybe one of these guys becomes historically famous, but I don't think that we're headed toward a place where we have zero, is more what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't think the NBA is going to go belly up. That's not my point. My point is just, I do think it's going to be harder to gravitate to fans who don't have a guy who they know is the best player in the world. Or like for years, it was like you could load up Team World against Team USA and Team USA would still dominate that team. And now you're like, I don't know if they still could. And I don't think the one and done helps either. I don't think players get enough time to really gravitate to players. I do think that they should either go from high school to pros or make them stay in college a little bit longer to help build the brand a little bit as well. But here's what I would ask you too is I noticed the NBA has continued to put LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, regardless of who they're playing, most of the time it's each other in the biggest moments, in the biggest time slots, on the biggest days. And I think the NBA should be preparing for a LeBron James-less, Kevin Durant-less, Steph Curry-less NBA. And I feel like they don't do a very good job marketing these new players who I'm with you. I love as well. Kind of hate Wembanyama because he's a Spur. But outside of that, like, I do love these players. But I think the NBA could do a better job of it. And I also think that plays a role in some of my worries of the NBA having a little bit of a rude awakening, a little bit, when these guys are all gone, which, I mean, it also sucks too, man. Like, I just wish we saw more of them tonight.
Yeah, I think it's the same as what I said in the first segment about the All-Star game specifically, which is I don't disagree. Like, I think, milking Lakers Warriors as much as the league does it just gets old, but I think there is something to be said for using the platform of, like, for instance, the finals in 2012, right? Where we had the Heat, but then we got to see the Thunder. And it was like, well, that's kind of perfect. That's sort of what you would want it to look like, where you get introduced to this other young thing by way of what you're familiar with. So I like if it's like, okay, let's book on a ABC Saturday night game, Lakers Thunder, Lakers Rockets, Warriors, whatever, Cavs or something like. But I put the bulk of the blame still when it comes to the kind of bigger picture of like the marketing or just the creating faces of the league, rather than hoping one falls in your lap. I think the players deserve blame for that.
Mm-hmm.
Why they don't do interviews ever? They don't go do anything. They want to do their own podcasts. Newsflash, they're all awful. They're all bad. I mean, if anyone's like I listen to every minute of Paul George's podcast or Patrick Beverley's podcast or when Trae Young had one or when Michael Porter, you're crazy. I'm sorry, it's not good content. That's not a substitute for an actual getting to know these guys. That's gone. And people complain about the media angle of that too. Oh, inside the NBA just craps on everybody. Okay, maybe. But like, I would guarantee you that if Ernie Johnson could do a sit down for 20 minutes, 30 minutes with, I don't know, pick anyone, Ant or somebody, you don't think TNT would say yes to that? You think they're saying no to all these things that are pouring in? You know what I mean? Whatever. There's a million ways you could kind of approach it, but I struggle to put that blame on the league or some of these other entities when I just look at players who, if they're not even going to play basketball in an entertaining way, in a competitive way on the All-Star stage, then like, do we really think they're going to do the sorts of things that make them famous and celebrities and interesting people off the court? Like that? No. I mean, to me, the answer to that is no.
Yeah. My final question, and I guess, pretty quickly, who do you think, because until LeBron retires, LeBron is the face of the NBA. Who do you think it will be as soon as LeBron retires? Who do you think it'll shift to?
I mean, next season could be his last year, so the timing, I'm
Yeah.
willing to say the timing might get a little rocky. But they
Hmm.
will have the overlap, right, where I don't think KD or Curry will retire after next season. So I think it will be Vic. I do.
Okay.
I
I'm going to
think
go
that-
Luka.
Hmm,
Laker. I think a lot of that has to do with it too.
yeah.
I think it's going to be Luka.
I don't think he likes to talk. One of the issues.
My sleeper is Ant. I'll say
Yeah.
Luka, but my sleeper is Ant because of the USA tie. I don't think he's going to stay in Minnesota forever. And he's a loud personality and he's a good player. So
Yeah.
I think Ant would be my second choice, but I'll take Luka.
Yeah, I don't
Devin
know much about
Booker.
Cooper Flag personality-wise. I haven't really heard much
I hope Cooper Flag's great.
interviews with him and all that, but obviously the talent's there, and you know, there's some other elements of who he is as a guy that tend to help. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's get to Ryan Dunn's rookie season as he debuted in the Rising Stars Challenge, and hopefully can close the rest of the season out strong. Next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. There were live odds on the NBA All-Star game tonight. I'm sure if anyone was watching, you saw that. That is pretty insane, but it also speaks to just how deep it goes at FanDuel. There's always something for you if you're prowling around. But to get the bonus bets, $150 of them to be exact, go to FanDuel.com. Check out the men's college basketball world, where South Carolina State minus 2,500 favorites. You also have Cooper Flag, who we were just discussing, and Duke minus 1,450 favorites on the road in Virginia. Either of those will probably do it for you. Get the bonus bets. That's $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, all at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Ben, let's speed through Ryan Dunn's rookie season so far. He was not the biggest factor in the Rising Stars Challenge, as you would expect for a defense-first type of guy, but it's a good opportunity, I think, to check in. He was an injury replacement in this event, and I think most importantly for us, Ben, he is seemingly heading into the All-Star break, wasn't really in the mix in Mike Budenholzer's rotation. So I guess it's kind of a bigger picture question, but what I'm kind of looking at here is like, how do you balance with Dunn, and if you're Mike Budenholzer, the idea that this season matters for his development also, but the season is kind of on the ropes. I know a lot of fans want to see him out there, but how would you manage that? How should the Suns manage that?
I know players don't operate like this, and I know coaches don't operate like this, but Brendon, is the season really still on the ropes? Or have they been knocked out? If they make the playoffs, what do I care if they don't win another playoff game this year? I know we like to talk about it kind of being on the ropes, and I understand Budenholzer doesn't think that way, and neither do the players, but I mean, come on. There's no one out there who is playing over Ryan Dunn who is significantly better than Dunn. And his ability to be a lockdown defender, and I think his three-point shot has been obviously a lot better than we thought. The free throw shooting needs to get better, but I like his athleticism, and I like his ability to develop a decent corner three. And then even more than any of that, I love his defense. He's a young guy, and he consistently makes me believe, even this weekend, being the defensive guy, that's all cool with me too, is he consistently makes me believe he is the one reason, really, why I think the future for the Suns is a lot brighter than anyone really gives it credit for. I think Ryan Dunn is a very good possibility. He could be a star in this league. I think he's shown that potential that he could be. Will he be? I don't know. But we got to see more of Dunn, man. We just do. He's everything the Suns team needs in terms of size and defense. And I think even this weekend, just seeing him out there just kind of shows to everyone that the season's not on the ropes anymore, man. We got to develop this guy. But that's where I'm at with the Dunn situation. What about you?
Yeah, I think that there's a difference between being good defensively for a 22-year-old rookie
Mm-hmm.
and being a good defender in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't think he's some kind of great defender right now. So
Okay.
that's kind of, I think, why we're in the situation that we're in with him. Watching this all play out is the offense is inconsistent. We kind of expected that, right? But he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and his usage rate is pretty low. I think he's still developing in terms of just kind of the offensive awareness and feel of
Mm-hmm.
just, how do I move? How do I keep the ball, rotating the way that it needs to, and just kind of play within a structure, because Virginia is goofy the way that they play offense. We all know that. So I think that that's kind of happening, and that was expected. But I think if he was the level of defender that maybe some fans think he is, or I don't know where you fully stand on it, then he would be playing.
I think he's a good defender. I don't think he's
Yeah.
anything more than a good big body. And my point to that is just really quickly, I don't mean to cut you off,
No, go for it.
it's just like, that's fine, but this isn't the Celtics. There's no one on this team who is a significantly better or better defender than him at all at the position he's playing. So that's my point with it. I think he's I think he just shows a lot of promise, and his development needs to be done. But sorry, I cut you off there. But that's where I'm at.
No, I mean, I do think that if you're just looking at okay, that established with where we're at on Dunn, I think who he's necessarily playing over is part of where it just kind of goes sideways for me, or who's playing over him, I should say, right? Because it's right now, why do Ty and Gillespie need to be playing? Right? They're very similar. Even if you can understand the idea, it's just hey, it's a younger spark. Let's just see if these guys have anything. And you can make the same argument about both of those dudes, that they deserve an opportunity. Same way that Oso, Bull, Dunn, they've already gotten this year. It's just kind of their turn. And I think part of why we're talking about this, yes, Dunn played in the game, but we're also looking down the stretch run of the season. How are they going to handle it? I get the idea behind giving those guys an opportunity, but why both? Why at the same time? Why are they playing literally at the same time sometimes on the court together? That part doesn't make sense. I would say probably more than anything, who's been taking his minutes though lately has been Bull. Right? I mean, that's kind of more of a positional overlap. Even with Booker, Beal, and Grayson Allen out in the last game before the break, Dunn only got 10 minutes. So that's because Bull got 33, not because of the guards. Crazy. So crazy. What do you think of that? I mean, I know you were anti-Bull coming in. His shot he's been inefficient, but I think he's been probably better than most people would have expected coming into the rotation cold. So what would you do with that? Should Bull be playing at all, or should Dunn just be getting all those minutes?
Bull should be playing. And I haven't done the complete 180 on this because I do think he's still largely overblown in terms of Suns fans communities, and he has been really inefficient. But he plays with energy. He plays like a player who actually cares. He defensively has actually surprised me at times blocking shots. But, I mean, would it really kill anyone to throw Dunn out there too and just be bigger? Now, I don't know what the rotations look like, but if you're asking me who should play, Dunn or Bull, every day that ends in Y and twice on Sunday, I'm taking Ryan Dunn. So that's where I would land on it. I'm not anti-Bull. In this space, I have more belief in Ryan Dunn becoming a good player than I do Bull. But I do like Bull because he has actually played with real intensity.
He has. I agree with you. And I think one of the things that can happen with Bull is you're kind of fake big when he's on the court because he doesn't play as if he's some kind of, he's not even at the Porzingis level, right? Like Porzingis also is kind of an injury risk. He's not the strongest in terms of you're not going to be playing him on the interior all the time. He obviously has some versatility to his game that you want to take advantage of. But Bull doesn't even clear that threshold. Bull doesn't even clear the Wembanyama threshold of how his actual size affects the game. And so that's part of the issue where it's
It's also just too thin. Just too thin. Guys can
that's
body
what I
him.
mean. That's what I
Jalen
mean.
Brunson
And
could
so,
body him.
Yeah, it looks nice to have a guy that's that tall out there with Nick Richards, with Kevin Durant. But like, what are you really getting out of that? The shot blocking, yes, but only at times. It's not like he's any sort of,
And it feels like it comes in bunches too. The shot blocking comes in like one possession where he'll have 4 of them.
Well, I think that's the thing is like he is also a player. I mean, I think similar to Beal, similar to Nurkic, similar to a lot of these guys on this team, unfortunately, where they have to be empowered and pumped up to be at their best, confident and given that confidence. It doesn't seem to come naturally for
That's a really good point.
Too many players on this team, and I think Bull's in that category. And you really see when his coach is committed and he's getting minutes, he's good. And then the minute he has to play 12 off the bench because the matchup's not great, then he's hesitant. He's making mental mistakes and all that sort of stuff. So I agree. I would definitely at least have the split be a little more even rather than 33-10, if both of them are going to be in the rotation. But I do want to ask you that before we wrap here. Last thing would just be, if we assume the Suns will be starting the second half at full strength, and we understand, we're not optimistic that they're going to make it out of the play-in, let alone make it into the play-in. And there is some balancing act you're starting to need to think about with the development of these players. Who should be in the rotation? Like, who would you like to see come off the bench Thursday against the Spurs in that first game? If we know Beal will be off the bench and we know Royce probably will start and Tyus is going to play, Richards, whatever, like, who are the 2, 3, 4 other guys that you think should be in there?
It's so funny because like I'm ready to move Tyus to the bench and put Beal in the starting lineup. But if we're just going with Beal being the guy, it's just too much redundancy in small lineups. But you got to have Ryan Dunn in there. I do think Bol needs to play, and probably Grayson at that point, because you're starting then Tyus, Booker, O'Neal, KD, Nick Richards. My next 4: Beal, Dunn, Bol, Grayson, and Bol. That's what I would do.
So Bol's kind of the backup center. So Plumlee's getting banished.
Yeah, but Plumlee's about to end up in Alcatraz with Nurkic in a few games.
Yeah,
here.
I'm not saying that as if that's some kind of mistake on your part. I'm just establishing for the people that would be a change from what they've been doing. Yeah, I wouldn't hate that. I think that's pretty solid.
It's so
I think
funny
it's the right mix. I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like they're kind of developing naturally because Bud is scraping the bottom of the barrel to just find some energy somewhere and find some effort somewhere.
Which I do applaud Bud for doing. That's why I don't get super angry at him for playing Ty or whoever, because like he's just looking for a spark, and I don't blame him for that. Season's circling down the drain, or you could argue like me that it already kind of has spiraled the drain, and guys just want someone that can spark a little energy. So it's like Jock Lawndale years ago in the playoffs. I said it before,
I will say it again. The 6 games coming out of the All-Star break, if they don't dominate that, then the season is over. That is my last through the rest of February. 6 more games, all winnable. 5 of them you should win. If they can redeem themselves at all, it will be right there. And then after that, I will be in full it's over mode. But I'm going to give them that 6 more games. I'm going to give them through the rest of the month.
I'll give them it 2. I'll give them it 2 because I don't want to say it all sucks. I want to find a reason to root for this team. I'm so tired of coming on after a game being like, well, Ben, why'd they lose? Well, they turned over the ball. They were too small, and a young team ran them off the court. Like, I don't want to do that again. I'm so over it. So
we all are. We all are. All right. So I will be here tomorrow. Ben will be here Wednesday, and then we'll be back with you Thursday, and then post game for the Spurs game.
We also need an All-Star break from each other. That's what this is. However, only one of us got invited to the All-Star game, and that was Brendon. I did not get selected.
Invited to the All-Star game.
I like to think you were selected.
Yeah, I wish. That would have been nice. A little trip to San Francisco. All right, that'll wrap us up. Hit, follow, subscribe if you have not already. We will talk to you throughout the week.